Aliens from 1986 has a special edition cut of the film that's 17 minutes longer than the theatrical cut, with major implications to the plot of the movie that makes it an even better film. There's also evidence for over 35 more minutes of deleted scenes that were in the first cut of the movie. We're going to talk about all of it. Let's get into it. Aliens from 1986 is a movie my mom loved, and while I was growing up, she showed this to me alongside movies like Terminator, Tremors, Jaws, and it fueled my love for this type of movie. When I bought the DVD 3-pack you see in my hand in maybe 2007, I had no idea there was even a special edition of this movie out. It was my first time seeing these scenes. This version dates back to 1991 for the Laserdisc release of Aliens. But if you take a deeper look, a version similar with the extra footage occupied a 3-hour time block on CBS in 1989.
Aliens. Next.
It's worth noting that this one is called the Special Edition, but it's the version that both Ridley Scott,
Yes, I meant James Cameron,
and Sigourney Weaver prefer. And to understand why, you're going to have to see these changes. The first added scene has Ripley hanging out on a bench in what appears to be a little outdoor park. However, the camera reveals she's looking at a projection, and she powers it off. Burke enters the room and they have a discussion that is way too important to Ripley's character to be left out of this film.
Is there any word about my daughter?
I really think we should worry about the hearing now, because we don't have a lot of time.
Essentially, this reveals that Ripley's daughter has already lived her entire life and died already.
Age 66. And that was at the time of her death.
It's a tragic addition to the story that gives Ripley's character a lot more depth in this film, which is otherwise filled with a lot of action-y schlock, and I'm not complaining. He even gives her a photo of her daughter as an older woman, and Ripley has one of the most heartbreaking lines and deliveries of any line in cinema history.
I promised her that I would be home for her birthday. Her 11th birthday.
She breaks down crying like any conscious human would do. This scene alone immediately makes this version better. We don't even have to talk about the rest of the scenes that are added in, because this is just it right here. The grief-stricken Ripley is the Ripley we see in the movie. And this is what makes the relationship so special with Newt. It's brilliant, and having seen both versions, the movie without this subplot is lacking the real heart that the story of Newt brings to Aliens. I'll have more to say on this later. The next change is an extended scene that comes when Ripley is at the meeting. The chairman, Van Ewen, has more dialogue.
And is unfit to hold an ICC license as a commercial flight officer. Said license is hereby suspended indefinitely.
This is just kind of a little tack on that adds to the scene. You can kind of gather how the scenario is going to play out without it, but it doesn't hurt having it in there, I don't think. Then we have another scene that also has some pretty big implications that shows us Hadley's hope. The scene establishes what's going on here, and how these people are living before the alien chaos, and how that started. Newt and the rest of her family are riding in a vehicle. Her mom even makes a joke about them playing in the air vents.
I catch either of you playing in the air ducts again, I'll tan your hides.
Mom?
It shows that they've discovered the same ship from Alien, and her father is fucking stoked about it.
We have scored big this time.
Newt watches as her parents exit the vehicle and enter the ship. A little while later, the door bursts open, and her mother is screaming into the radio. Newt sees her father on the ground with a facehugger on him, and she screams. Now, I personally like this. I can understand that some people are going to say they prefer the mystery where you don't really know how that all went down, and I would argue that you still really don't know how it went down, you just know how it started. I also really like seeing the station operating. It's a nice contrast to how we see it later. Then there's some more dialogue in the scene where Burke visits Ripley after they lose contact with the settlement, and he's begging her for help. It's extra dialogue about the company terraforming, and really it's just more exposition that explains what the settlement's doing there. There's about 60 seconds of footage of the interior of the ship. We see a locker room, the armory, and the hangar. I like this stuff because it's very reminiscent of the first film, and I find this version to be closer in tone in relation to the first film than the theatrical cut of the movie. This version also offers more in terms of getting to know these characters. A good example of this is Hudson hyping himself up in the crew to Ripley in another scene.
I am the ultimate badass. Yeah. State of the badass art.
He keeps going, And to leave this out is just criminal, I think.
Me and my squad of ultimate badasses will protect you.
Rip Bill Paxton as well, like, what a legend. The next one is kind of negligible, but let me know what you think. Vasquez and Hudson are monitoring the motion tracker and are following some movement around. Ripley and Gorman watch from the vehicle as this all goes down. They end up discovering a hamster as the source of the movement. Like I said, nothing really to write home about there. But I'll take more Sigourney Weaver and Bill Paxton any day of the week. I do find it's just a little bit of a stereotypical type of scene to put in this movie. So not having that type of thing would be subverting that a little bit for me. I guess I just have mixed feelings on this one. There's another scene where the vehicle pulls up to the base, they get out and walk to the entrance. Hicks and Ripley have a quick exchange of dialogue.
Are you alright?
Yes.
It just shows the line between these two characters that's starting to form. He thinks she's smart, she knows what she's talking about, and he's concerned for her. Another thing people really talk about with this version is the sentries.
We got 4 of these robot sentries. Display and scanners intact.
As they should, because this unleashes a whole new scene with the setup of the sentry guns, and then they use them later. Which is incredible and very messy, I might add. They're tracking them all over, and we see them exploding left and right like green water balloons of acid. For me, it's hard to imagine this movie without this scene at this point. It's just too good. There's some more dialogue between Newt and Ripley when she's putting her to bed. They end up talking about her dead daughter, which is why this was cut. Again, I think it was a mistake to remove this subplot personally. I think it was important. It was important to James Cameron. It was important to Sigourney Weaver. She was pissed as hell to learn it was initially removed. This version also has some extended dialogue with Hudson theorizing about an alien queen. Kinda shows that he's not just a moron. And the last thing added into this version is Hicks telling Ripley his first name, Dwayne, to which she responds with her first name. It's a nice moment for these two, and I don't think it's long enough that it really messes with the pacing of the movie or anything. This version of the film is absolutely better than the theatrical cut. I've been talking a lot about these alternate versions of movies lately, and trust me when I say this is like the most urgent of them all. This movie's already one of the best action sci-fi films of all time, but this takes it to new heights. I'm 100% on Sigourney Weaver's side when it comes to the subplot of her daughter aging and dying while she's frozen floating around in space. The idea of that alone, what it would do to you as a person, that's just fascinating. So fascinating that Christopher Nolan later did it in Interstellar. So as far as those missing 35 minutes go, most of it's just lost as far as I know. So let's talk about a few of these. The big one I want to talk about is the cocooned Burke scene. So this scene was filmed, and it was never in any cut of the movie that we're aware of, although I do suspect it was part of those 35 minutes missing from the original first cut, which wasn't necessarily a cut, it was just the film assembled for the first time, I think. Cameron has said he wasn't really a fan of how it turned out, and so it ended up not being included. But it did make it into the comics and eventually as a special feature. In the scene, Ripley is searching the hive for Newt, and she's grabbed by a hand which turns out to be Burke, of course.
Oh, God.
He's cocooned to the wall with a chestburster inside him, and she ends up handing him a grenade and moving right along. He cries out and apologizes and begs for help. It's an interesting scene, much like the deleted scene of Dallas in the first film. It's genuinely horrifying thought too. This scene is more aligned with Alien than Aliens in that sense, because it triggers the existential dread in my brain. Body horror and intrusion, combined with coming to terms with your own death and being handed a grenade. At the same time though, you're like, yeah, I hate this guy. Fucking let him die. There's a little bit of other fun stuff, like Hyperdyne Systems that Bishop mentions was originally Cyberdyne Systems in the script, a nod to another Cameron film, The Terminator. There's a lot more stuff that wasn't very impactful to the story, and some of that stuff was in the novelization, as well as the comic Aliens Newt's Tale. I have some links in the description down below with more details on that stuff. Check it out if you're interested. There's always more out there about these movies. And as always, I want to know what you guys think of these versions in the comments down below. Do you prefer the special edition or the theatrical cut? Love to hear from you guys.